Nick returned Orga's smile, feeling a sense of warmth and contentment wash over him. He cherished this moment, grateful for the chance to reconnect with Orga and forge a new friendship with her. Absolutely, Orga. I'd love that, Nick replied, his tone filled with sincerity. And if you ever need anything, whether it's just someone to talk to or someone to hang out with, you know you can count on me. Orga's smile widened at Nick's words, touched by his genuine offer of support. Thank you, Nick. That means a lot to me. I'll definitely keep that in mind. As they finished their meal and prepared to leave the restaurant, Nick couldn't help but feel a sense of optimism about the future. Despite the challenges they had faced in the past, he believed that he and Orga could rebuild their friendship and create new memories together. Walking out into the cool evening air, Nick offered Orga his arm, a gesture of chivalry and friendship. Together they strolled down the bustling streets, their laughter mingling with the sounds of the city. Nick and Orga bid farewell after their dinner, their hearts lighter and their bond stronger than ever before. As they parted ways, both carried with them a renewed sense of hope for the future and the possibility of love and happiness in unexpected places. Nick checked his phone as he entered his apartment, his heart skipping a beat. He was surprised to find more than 10 missed calls from James. Without waiting another second, he excused himself to call back and check if there was a problem with his boss. Nick hastily dialed James's number, his mind racing with worry. After several rings, James finally picked up. James, I'm sorry for missing your calls. Is everything okay? Nick asked, his voice laced with concern. James's voice came through the phone, tense and urgent. Nick, where have you been? I've been trying to reach you for hours. Do you remember your job responsibilities? Nick's heart sank as he realized the gravity of the situation. I'm sorry, James. You said you wanted to be alone, so I didn't expect you to need my service. I had dinner plans, decided to put my phone on silent, and I didn't realize you needed me urgently. What's going on? James took a deep breath before replying, his voice steady but strained. It's about Orga. She's back, Nick, and there's something I need to tell you. Meet me at my villa as soon as possible. We have a lot to discuss. Nick was surprised to hear that James had found out about Orga. He had to know how much James knew before telling Orga to take caution. This was because he didn't want Orga to have any relationships again. Nick's mind raced with a mix of emotions and concerns. He needed to tread carefully, both for James's sake and for Orga's. If James had discovered Orga's return, it could potentially complicate matters in ways Nick hadn't anticipated. James, I'll be there as soon as I can, Nick replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil swirling within him. He was also afraid that James might find out that he helped Orga hide all those years. With that, Nick ended the call and quickly made his way to James's villa, his mind buzzing with thoughts of Orga and the tangled web of emotions and secrets that surrounded her. Arriving at the villa, Nick found James pacing in the living room, his expression tense with anticipation. Without wasting a moment, James turned to face Nick as soon as he entered. Nick, I need to know everything. How long have you known about Orga's return? And why didn't you tell me sooner? It was all over the news. Why am I the last one to know about it? James demanded, his voice edged with frustration. Nick hesitated, choosing his words carefully. James, I only found out about Orga's return tonight during dinner. I had no idea she was back until then. And as for not telling you sooner, I didn't think it was my place to interfere in your personal matters. James regarded Nick with a skeptical gaze, his eyes narrowing in suspicion. You expect me to believe that you had no inkling of Orga's return until tonight? Nick shook his head, his heart pounding with anxiety. James, I swear to you, I had no idea. I haven't seen or heard from Orga since she disappeared. If I had known she was back, I would have told you immediately. And sir, you know how hard we've been working? James studied Nick's face for a long moment, searching for any signs of deception. Finally, he seemed to relent, his expression softening slightly. Fine, Nick. I'll take your word for it. But from now on, I need you to keep me informed about anything related to Orga. Understand? Nick nodded, relieved that James seemed to believe him. Of course, James. I understand. I'll do whatever it takes to help you. With that, James turned away, his mind consumed with thoughts of Orga and the daughter she claimed to have. Nick watched him silently, his own thoughts racing as he wondered what the future held for all of them. As the night wore on, Nick couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled over him. He knew he needed to speak to Orga to warn her of the danger she might be facing now that James had discovered her return. But he also knew that revealing his involvement in her disappearance could jeopardize everything. With a heavy heart, Nick made a decision. He would do whatever it took to protect Orga, even if it meant sacrificing his own reputation and standing with James. But first, he needed to find Orga and ensure her safety. Meanwhile, Orga was completely unaware of the storm brewing, enjoying a quiet moment of reflection at home after her dinner with Nick. Maggie joined her in their living room. You came late. Kaya had trouble sleeping without seeing you, but I have managed to make her fall asleep. Now tell me, how was your dinner with Nick? Orga smiled warmly at Maggie, grateful for her presence and the comfort she provided. I'm sorry I came home late, Maggie. As for Kaya, she will be the first thing I see in the morning. And dinner with Nick was unexpected but nice. It felt good to catch up with an old friend. Maggie raised an eyebrow, sensing there was more to Orga's dinner with Nick than she was letting on. Just catching up, huh? You seem happier than usual. Did something happen between you and Nick? Orga chuckled softly, knowing she couldn't keep anything from Maggie for long. Well, I guess you could say it was a bit more than just catching up. Nick confessed some feelings he had for me, but I made it clear that I value our friendship above anything else. It's complicated, Maggie. But for now, let's just enjoy the peace and quiet. Maggie nodded understandingly, her expression filled with concern for her friend. I'm glad you're handling it well, Orga. Just be careful, okay? You never know what might happen when old flames are reignited. Orga smiled gratefully at Maggie's words, touched by her concern. Thank you, Maggie. I'll be careful, I promise. Hey, enough about me. How was your day? Maggie shrugged, a faint smile playing on her lips. Oh, you know, the usual. Dealing with the producers, fans, and fame. It's all exhausting, you know. The usual chaos. She chuckled softly, but there was a hint of exhaustion in her voice. Orga reached out and squeezed Maggie's hand gently. You're doing an amazing job, Maggie. And remember where we've come from. Maggie's smile widened at Orga's words, warmth spreading through her chest. Thanks, Orga. That means a lot coming from you. The two friends sat in comfortable silence for a moment, content in each other's company. But soon, Orga's thoughts drifted back to Nick and the conversation they had shared earlier. Suddenly, Orga's phone buzzed with a new message, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was from an unknown number, but the message contained only 2 words. Meet me. A surge of adrenaline coursed through Orga's veins as she realized it might be Nick reaching out to her. That was the same number Nick used to connect with her. Only the 2 of them knew about it. With a sense of urgency, she quickly replied, Where? The response came almost immediately, with an address attached. Orga's heart pounded in her chest as she grabbed her jacket and keys, her mind racing with thoughts of Nick and the danger he might be in. Did he get discovered? Maggie, who saw the sudden change in Orga's mood and behavior, stood up with anxiety. Orga, what happened? What's the matter? Orga didn't know what to tell her friend. Her mind raced with worry as she rushed to explain the situation to Maggie, her heart pounding in her chest. Maggie, it's Nick. I don't know what happened, but it sounds like an emergency. I think he might be in trouble. He messaged me, asking me to meet him urgently, but he didn't say why. I'm worried something might have happened to him." Maggie's eyes widened in concern as she took in Olga's words. Without hesitation, she reached for her own jacket and keys. "We need to go to him, Olga." Maggie, trying to put everything together, added, "Could it be about James? Maybe he found out that you came back and that you were with Nick tonight. Because I don't see any other reason Nick could call you in the middle of the night." Olga listened to her friend's suggestions. It made sense to her, but she didn't want to jump to conclusions. "Well, Maggie, look after Kaya. I will go and check on Nick. Even if James had found out about me and Kaya, he would have no chance with me again. He broke my heart and chose another woman over me. So whatever the reason, I don't care whether he finds out about us. I will make sure he doesn't know that Kaya is his." Olga's determination shone through her words, and Maggie nodded in agreement, understanding the gravity of the situation. "You're right, Olga. We'll deal with whatever comes our way together. Just promise me you'll be careful. You can use my car," Maggie said, giving the car keys to Olga. "And don't worry about Kaya. I am her one and only aunt she will ever have." Olga nodded, her resolve firm. "I promise, Maggie. I'll be cautious. Now, take care of Kaya. I'll call you as soon as I know more." She held Maggie's hands and chuckled. "Thank you, Maggie. I know I can always count on you." Without hesitation, Olga gave her friend a final glance and hurried out the door, dashing out of her apartment and into the night, determined to find out why Nick had called her urgently. She would do everything to protect herself and Kaya from James. She entered the car and drove to the location that Nick had sent her. Meanwhile, Nick was already waiting for Olga, his mind buzzing with thoughts about Olga meeting James again. He wasn't afraid of being discovered by James, even though it could cost him his job. He was just concerned about Olga. He wanted her, and he could protect her, no matter the cost. Finally, she arrived at the designated location, a quiet restaurant downtown. The area was eerily quiet and traditional. She scanned her surroundings, her heart pounding in her chest as she searched for any sign of Nick. Then she saw him standing on the corner, his expression tense with worry. Relief flooded through Olga as she rushed to his side, her concern melting away in the presence of her friend. Nick had always been her rock. He turned 5 years of struggle into joy and peace. "Nick!" Olga called out, rushing towards him. "What's going on? Why did you call me here?" Nick turned towards Olga, relief flooding his features as he saw her safe and sound. "Olga, thank goodness you're here. I need to talk to you about something important, something concerning James." Olga's heart skipped a beat at the mention of James's name, her mind racing with fear and uncertainty. "What about James, Nick? Did something happen?" Nick took a deep breath, steeling himself for the conversation ahead. "Yes, Olga. James knows you're back. He found out somehow, and he's looking for you. There's a double chance that he might find out that I am the one who helped you hide from him all these years. I am not afraid of losing my job, but it's too early. I need to be beside James to be able to know what he is planning. In order to protect you, I have to be by his side as his trusted secretary, as always. I know I can divert his investigation and make sure he thinks Kaya is not his, but I need you to tell me your side. What do you want?" Olga's blood ran cold at Nick's words, the gravity of the situation sinking in. "How? How did he find out? Did you tell him?" Nick shook his head adamantly. "No, Olga, I didn't tell him anything, I swear. But he knows. He saw it on the news. Because of Maggie, she's famous. Of course she had to find out. And I'm afraid he's not going to let this go. We need to be careful, Olga. James is determined to see you again and maybe date you, even though he's still married." Olga's mind raced with fear and uncertainty as she processed Nick's words. She knew James was capable of anything, especially when it came to protecting his reputation and interests. But she also knew she couldn't hide forever. We need to come up with a plan, Nick, Orga said, her voice trembling with emotion. I can't keep running, and I won't let James intimidate me anymore. I don't care if he finds out about me and everything because I have zero interest in him. But we have to make sure he doesn't know Kaya is his. He might take her from me and I can't take it. Nick's expression hardened with determination as he listened to Orga's words. You're right, Orga. Don't worry. He trusts me so much, and I will make sure Kaya's information will never get into his hands. But we need to be smart about this and make up a story that he can buy. You know, if you count Kaya's age with the time that you two were together, it adds up. We need to gather evidence that shows that Kaya is definitely not his, even if it means fabricating DNA test results. Orga nodded, her resolve firm. Thank you, Nick, for everything. From day one, I saw you coming to save us. You have always been my rock. Nick reached out and gently squeezed Orga's hand with a reassuring smile on his face. You don't have to thank me, Orga. I'll do whatever it takes to protect you and Kaya, no matter the cost. We'll get through this together, I promise. Sighing with relief, Nick shifted the conversation. You can head home, Orga. It's really late, and I am sorry to make you drive in this darkness alone. Go and rest. Tomorrow I will send you the contact information of the headmaster of Kaya's new school. I will call him before you go to register her, and I'll be updating you with all of James's findings on his investigation so that we can plan ahead. Orga's eyes welled up with gratitude as she looked into Nick's unwavering gaze. Thank you, Nick. I don't know what I would do without you.